I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger, but it didn't really mean anything to me then. And for the longest time, I fobbed it off as a label that gets put on people because we were different. I wasn't even sure if I really believed in ADHD. But as of recent times, I started to learn more about it, and I think it's actually a creative superpower. Yes, I know ADHD comes with its downfalls. Procrastination, forgetfulness, impulsiveness, burnout, and a lot of unfinished projects. But I do think there are 3 areas where we excel, especially when we apply it to our creativity. Example number 1, hyperfocus. When something genuinely interests you, and I mean interest, you can work at that thing with an incredible amount of intensity and get an enormous amount of work done. When you love what you're creating, people will be able to tell. And not necessarily because it's the best thing that was ever made. I think they can just see the passion behind it. You start to see little details that most people will miss because you're so dialed in. I know sometimes I'm so dialed in that what feels like maybe an hour ended up being a total of 8 hours because you're so focused on the thing. I don't know, it's just like time disappears. If there's a subject that captures your attention, you can absorb all that subject has to offer in a very, very short amount of time. I actually surprise myself with how much I can get done, and that's not often the case. I've got to really like what I'm doing. But that's the thing, if something grabs my attention, it's as if the outside world doesn't exist anymore. And I actually think that's a beautiful thing when it's pointed in the right direction. Imagine if everyone could do the thing they love for hours and hours. That's kind of what hyperfocus feels like. Now, yes, even though I can be dialed in onto the thing that I loved, I still leave things to the last minute. But that's besides the point. Example number 2, endless curiosity. Our ADHD brains often like to jump from topic to topic, leading to a broad knowledge base of lots of different things and constant inspiration. And when we apply that to our creativity, it essentially gives us an endless amount of material for our creative outlets. I know for me personally, I have an endless amount of interests. I feel like I could never run out of ideas. The challenge actually is to choose which one to pursue. Like one week I'm obsessed with filmmaking, the next week I'm obsessed with making Gandalf pipes, and then somehow I find myself watching a 2-hour documentary on something I didn't even know existed yesterday. Like if I were to show you guys my YouTube history, it's absolute chaos. But the cool part is, all of these different interests somehow find their way into my creativity. And I think it's a part of what makes us unique and makes us. So ideas don't really magically appear for me. They come from everything that I was curious enough to dive into and to explore. And the good thing about this curiosity is it usually ends up leading to new opportunities, new experiences, and new adventures, and honestly, just endless learning opportunities. And as an artist and a creative, we want to be curious because it helps us think outside the box. And I think we're less likely to stick to conventional ways of solving problems, which in itself, I think, can lead to original ideas. Sometimes they're not the greatest idea. I'll be upfront with that. But I honestly think that's one of our biggest advantages. Example 3, risk-taking. There's nothing that gives someone with ADHD more dopamine than taking a risk. We're often way more willing to try the unconventional idea or take the creative risks that most people wouldn't take. I like to think of us as the kind of people that have to touch the fire to know that it's hot. And yeah, sometimes that curiosity means that we get burned. But other times it's exactly what leads us to discover what some others may have missed. And honestly, I think that's where some of the best creative work comes from. And in a lot of ways, starting a YouTube channel can be a risk, right? Sometimes it's just incredibly embarrassing, but it's the price you pay to be creative, to do something that others aren't doing. I often like to call it embracing your cringe. And not everybody's gonna understand you, not everybody's gonna like what you make. What's that saying? If you make something for everybody, then you made it for nobody. And if you never risk looking silly, you'll probably never make something that's totally originally yours. And as us with ADHD and others, but this is specifically for ADHD, I think that's one of our superpowers. I think we're okay looking cringe. I think the biggest mistake us people with ADHD make is trying to make ourselves think like everybody else. So often I only see people talking about the negative aspects of having ADHD. And don't get me wrong, I know the struggle is real, but I wanted to make this video because I think there's another side to the conversation that doesn't get talked about enough. For me, ADHD hasn't just made my life hard. It's shaped the way that I create. It's the reason I can hyper-focus on projects for hours. It's the reason for or my endless curiosity. And it's the reason that I'm willing to take these creative risks that maybe others might think are stupid. And yeah, sometimes those risks flop. Sometimes I completely embarrass myself, and sometimes I spend hours making something that nobody will even watch. But every now and then, one of those crazy ideas actually work. And to me, that's worth it. To me, that's me putting out authentic work. Like, I'd rather be the person making the weird stuff instead of the person that's just not making anything at all. Instead of spending our whole lives trying to make ourselves think like others, we should learn how our brains work and use that to our advantage, because I believe it's our superpower. And so if you made it this far in the video, I want you to comment down below what you think ADHD's slogan would be. That would be really interesting. I can only imagine. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.